and welcome to the Tech Show. Coming up this week, we look at a brand new lightweight e-bike from Common South.
We've got new adventure wheels from Hunt.
Yep, and we wonder if bikes were actually better a decade ago. Okay, 10 years ago, it was 2015, which is mad to think, actually. But a decade ago, if you look at some of the bikes, you'd expect them to look quite dated. But actually, they look all right. So check out this Common South Meta on the screen right now. Okay, there was no dropper, but at a glance, this looks like a modern bike, in my opinion. It had internal routing, you know, it looks pretty badass, to be fair. And okay, droppers weren't that common, but they were definitely in the top spec range. So if you check out this Trek Remedy 29, 9.9, so the top spec, this had a dropper post. It had 1x-group set, it's got discs, it's a 29er, and actually it was a 140mm full suspension trail bike. And it only weighed 25.8 pounds without pedals. That's really light. So to have a sorted bike with all the components that we have now, in a light package that's easy to work on, no complicated routing going on here, and nothing needs to be charged up overnight.
I mean, yeah, that's
Good.
valid. It was like £9,000. So in today's money, that would be 13 grand.
Yeah, that's pretty pricey, right?
It is pretty pricey. I think
For all the people out there that think things were cheaper back in the day, it's not.
Yeah, inflation is there, yeah. And I mean, there are still bikes there, 13 grand now, which would be even more. But anyway, I think for me, it's about how, yes, there were one or two bikes out there that had good geometry and good specs. You're right about droppers. It was really common not to have droppers on lots of bikes. So you've got reverbs, you've got some KS, you've got some gravity droppers, but it was something that bike sort of brands weren't speccing on all their models. It was something you had to add in. Whereas now, loads of bikes come with droppers, even kind of lower price point ones. So entry-level bikes like the Caliber Bossner, which did come out in 2015.
It did, yeah.
That now comes
10
with a
years
dropper.
ago.
Okay, the geometry has tweaked a little bit, but there were good entry-level bikes back then as well. But I think it's now that there's lots of bikes that have got really good geometry and really good specs.
So that Caliber is effectively going for the same price now, not including inflation or anything. That's still going for £1,000. It's got better spec and it's got a dropper now. More sorted geometry.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's quite good. But what I did appreciate of 10 years ago is that we were really experimental. So we had the 1x drivetrains coming through and droppers were also coming through too. But things were a little bit like experimental without being wacky. I'm not talking like early 90s tech here, but do you remember like soft tails were like the oxymoron on everyone's lips here? So they were hard tails that had sort of elastomers or technology to make it softer in the rear. So you had the BMC Team Light, check this out, which had little elastomer dampers in the rear stays. It was also, 2015 was the first year we saw the Trek Pro Caliber as well. And that was pretty groundbreaking. It had this kind of decoupler in the rear, which actually gave it 11 mils of flex. Now we're actually seeing that technology now coming through into gravel bikes, so it was still pretty relevant, I would say. And also because everyone loved hardtails back then, there was this more experimenting with making things sort of comfortable, and I think that's the reason why we saw 650B Plus coming about.
Well, we saw a whole plus size movement, because there are huge 29er tyres out there too.
Yeah, often 650B, but yeah, you're right, 29ers did it. So it was up to 3-inch tyres, and that kind of birthed the whole 2.6-inch tyre movement as well, which I think we can be grateful for.
Yeah, I think it's that thing of, I remember chatting to some people in bike shops previously, and it's like, thank God we've got rid of plus size tyres. That was just rubbish. It's like fat bikes were rubbish. And it's like, no. And there was a point where it was like kind of the latest trend that lots of brands jumped onto. But I think with plus size tyres, lots and lots of brands kind of went, well, actually, like really big tyres in the right conditions can work really well.
It's not that bad. Yeah.
No, it's really good to have a plush tyre.
Yeah, I don't think enough, because we've seen a lot more technology nowadays with sidewall support, and I don't think there was enough of that 10 years ago to support a 3-inch tyre, to be fair. Maybe we should revisit it.
Well, I mean, some bikes can already, so I think
that's
it's
true.
It's
very
good.
True.
I guess what some people are saying is also that there's less experimentation. Bikes have got safe, and it's all a bit boring.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
But I counter that strongly because it means that lots and lots of bikes are in the right shape and have got the right spec. And right shape, I'm talking about the right geometry for where we're riding nowadays. You know, trail centres have moved on in 10 years, and where, you know, a regular rider is riding on a trail, we're going quicker, we're hitting more technical terrain, we're riding faster. So I think more bikes are now in a better place.
So you're saying that we don't need to be experimental anymore because it's just done. We don't need to experiment with it. It's great now. Things don't need to improve.
There's always space for improvement, definitely. But no, it's a really good point. I think it's easy to touch on in terms of, like, we've seen these huge leaps, and now we're getting to a point where it's just little steps, and the little steps can make a big difference. Whether it's kind of like, I'm trying to think, like slightly steeper seat angles, or like saddles with like different foams that do different things, or grips that, you know, ergonomically work for different riding positions. There's always these incremental changes that increase the comfort, increase the performance, and the better experience of riders. But I think we've gone from having these humongous leaps forward. But yeah, let us know in the comments what you think. Are we due a huge change, or have things settled off for the better?
Or was 2015 the golden year? So Commencal have released the Tempo again, but this is an ENTB version. So it's their first proper lightweight ENTB. And it's coming in at 19.9 kilos, claimed, dependent on the size, obviously, without pedals. But that's that magic sub 20 kilo line. And it's an alloy frame, so it's pretty impressive that they've got the weight down. Alloy, as to be expected with Commencal, but it is going to be coming with some high-end components, which is what we expect from Commencal as well. So we're talking SRAM T-Type here and Fox factory suspension here. It's 29er only, 150 in the front, 135 in the rear, much like the normal Tempo. And it will be paired with the Bosch SX line motor, so that's a torque of 55 Newton meters. And they've got the shortened battery, so the 400 watt hour battery in there, but you can add the Bosch range extender for another 250 watts if that takes your fancy, and it will be coming with a lifetime warranty.
That's interesting. I think it plays well because they've got the Meta as their longer travel. I think they'll kind of try and say it's like a winch and plummet bike as an e-bike, and then they've got this as their all-rounder. Interesting stuff. Okay, we've now got, from Hunt, they've got a dedicated dynamo front hub.
I love it.
Yeah, so dynamos have been around for a long time with Auxjack riders. People wanted to ride through the night and do lots of really long mileage, and effectively that dynamo is in the hub and it generates enough power to charge stuff, whether it be running a light.
The movement of your wheel, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a little generator. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So yeah, this is a dedicated wheel set, which I've got to say I don't think we've seen from many brands in the mountain bike space. I've seen it on the road and in the sort of like gravel space, so it's really good to see for all those adventure racers. Lots of specs. So the hub is there, so you can use it to charge GPS, you can use it to run a light. It's got lots of outputs, so it produces 3 watts or 6 volts when you're riding at 18 to 19 kilometers an hour, which is quite fast actually. So I guess if you've got to keep moving, you keep going fast. It uses a Sun hub, which, yeah, they're really well known. German brand that have been doing dynamo hubs for a long time. And it's based on the Hunt Mason Search 29er disc wheel set. So the Mason is a separate brand. The Search is one of their kind of gravel, flat bar gravel explorer mountain bikes. But the rim is designed to handle from 2.3 to 2.6. So it's a 30mm width. So I think it would probably handle...
It's a proper mountain bike wheel set,
it is, yeah. 32 spokes, 30mm width, $799 for a wheel set, but you can purchase it as a front with a dynamo or just a rear, which will just be a normal rear hub. That's interesting.
Yeah, for a whole wheel set, that's not bad, is it? So Transition released another update to their kids range, and this is the Transition Scout. So we did see the Ripcord before Christmas, which was the 130 with the 24-inch wheels. This is a step up. This is the 27.5-inch wheel version, so medium, small, and extra small youngsters riding on a 150 front and rear suspension. There's 3 build options, 2 colours, and the suspension will be obviously designed for smaller and lighter riders.
Yeah, it's interesting how like kids' bikes are now 275. Is this going to be a trend for the smaller people, not just children obviously? Is a 275 going to be relegated to this just small? Let us know in the comments if you think that's a good thing. Fun, I saw this and I really liked it. I've got a Chris McNally poster at home. I'm very lucky. I picked one up at a Grindura event a couple of years ago. But Chris McNally, a quite famous watercolour and illustrator of the mountain bike and bikepacking community, has done a limited edition version with Silka, who makes really nice tools. They've got tools in a box called Hex 1, and you can get a Chris McNally one where he's painted it on the box. Lovely, lovely tools. If you've got any money left after Christmas, maybe you can rush out and get one.
Over in Devon, they're making some brakes. And new to the brake market are HEL, or H-E-L. Their website and their Instagram page doesn't say much more at this point, other than they're bringing to the market a new 4-piston mountain bike brake. And it looks to be CNC machined, although I'm not completely sure. But do follow them on Instagram if you want to learn more. Now, they do have a decent heritage in the motorsport world, so I'm sure that's going to cross over into mountain biking, even though we haven't heard of them yet.
Okay, sad news, but it is still news, and that's that more bike companies are in a kind of sticky situation. So Rocky Mountain have filed for Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, which sounds very Canadian and very importantly businessy speak, but it sounds like they're trying to restructure and avoid bankruptcy, which would be a real shame. And another brand that is pausing, that's as much what we know at the moment, is GT Bikes are going to pause their operations, so they're going to reduce their workforce, and at the moment it seems like they're not going to produce any more bikes. What it means for their sponsored riders and what it means for their bikes in the future, we're not sure. So yeah, potentially sad times in the industry.
Okay, we mentioned the Commencal tempo in the news today, so for the quiz today, I'm going to ask you, what country was Commencal founded and still operating in? Let us know down in the comments below. So we've been short on top mods over Christmas, so if you want to share with us a top mod or a bike cave or a rewind with a sort of retro product or bike, then the uploader is linked in the description below. Share it with us and we'll share it on the show with you lovely people. But for now, I want to share something that I saw on Instagram, which I think is really cool top mod, and this is from Stanton Bikes. So they're well known in the UK for making steel and titanium frames, gravel. They also make a titanium full sus, which is really rare, like a proper enduro bike as well. And yeah, this is one of their creations, which is giving me Klein retro Marin vibes. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a kind of retro paint job, and good to see, some jazzy paint. It's nice to see bright colours.
I don't know if their paint booth is broke or whatever, but she's just flicking that paint around all the boxes. But I love it.
We'll skip over that, that's fine, don't worry.
Okay, it's Ask GMBN Tech time, so you can use hashtag AskGMBN Tech down in the comments of this show right now if you want to, or any other video of ours, and we will try and pick that up and answer it on a section like this. So today is from Georidio, who says, on the topic of brakes, is there any difference or issues between the different brands of DOT 5.1 fluid? Can I buy, for example, 500 mils of Carr fluid, because it's cheaper than the bike one? Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, no, great. So DOT is Department of Transport, so there is like a standard to which all of these things are made. So there's DOT 3, DOT 4, and DOT 5.1. DOT 5.1, there's a DOT 5 as well, which is different again. All wonderfully confusing, but the numbers help us. DOT 5.1 is the high performance stuff. So if your brake system had got DOT 4 in it, then you'd have to replace it all effectively, best sort of case, to replace it with a 5.1. Yes, you could buy motorsport derived 5.1 in a half litre or even a litre or even bigger container. But the problem you're going to have, and one of the reasons why you're getting these little small containers for bike stuff, it's not just a bike tax where it's more expensive, it's because, well, it costs more to put it into a little container, but you need it in a little container because the amounts of fluid that we use in our brake systems is quite small. We're not using pints of the stuff, unlike in a car. And we need to kind of be really mindful about how we store DOT fluid, because all of it, 3, 4, 5.1, it absorbs moisture over time. And that means that when you put it into your brake, you're not going to get the high performance that you need because it's absorbing this moisture. That's why lots of the containers will have this foil top on where it's sealed, and technically you should only use fresh stuff. So if you've got a way of, I don't know, like vacuum pumping out the air, then yeah, you could use the big one. But essentially, yeah, don't mix DOT with mineral oils. Lots of brands have got their own dedicated mineral oils. So Magura have got Royal Blood. And yes, mineral oils are all very similar, but there's subtleties that the brands want us to use for good reasons. Maybe it is just the colour. I think it's probably something to do with the seals. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, comments from you lovely people. It was we were talking about in the last show, tech, that we wanted to stay in 2024. We don't want to bring it into 2025.
Right,
basically.
yes, yep.
So Laurentius Trier,
Hello.
who says, nothing against high pivots in general, but we don't need them on trail bikes. Neither do we need mass dampers, headset cable routing, or batteries.
Okay,
Just
well,
get
no,
rid
but
of
we
them.
don't need suspension either, do we? We could just have like rigid flat bar
That's
bikes.
true.
Being me,
Single speed, rigid.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't need them, but they're pretty good. D&D initials, headset cable routing for sure, and dedicated MX bikes, since I like full 29. Well, that's good for you that you like full 29. I like full 29, and I also like MX wheel size bikes. We've got variety, it's good.
Yeah, a similar vibe here. Oldie1 says short cranks, high-rise bars and ultra-low BBs. Nah, I'm not. I need short cranks. Like, I really need them. So I'm not leaving that in 2024.
Yeah, I think...
And
yeah.
I like a low BB.
Well, with a short crank as well. If you've got long cranks and low BB, yeah, agreed. Mitch Smith, solo air rear shocks on mid to high end bikes. Yeah, agreed. So we're talking about lower spec air shocks on kind of longer travel bikes. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think that is the better
We're leaving
specking
that,
of
are
bikes.
we?
Yeah, I think he's right there. Yeah.
Digital O Le Mans says simply overpriced bikes. Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to buy them. I mean,
What?
No, we don't have to leave them in
really expensive bikes.
24. Just don't buy it.
Well, no, but that comes around to our topic before of kind of like how you used to have to spend loads of money to get the really well-spec bike, and now you've got the well-spec bike with a good geometry and the good components at lots of price
we
points.
concluded you get more for your money now.
Yeah,
don't
you do.
we?
It's great. Nigel doesn't like headset routing. It solves a problem that doesn't exist and creates more problems. You know what? It does solve quite a few problems because it means that you don't have to have cable ports, and it is quite clean. So
It's
not
cool,
all bad.
most of the time. So Cetranso, he just simply says wireless only frames. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit rubbish that some top specs are wireless only.
They are, but wireless can be quite good.
Of course. But
Controversial.
We want the options. Anyway, moving on from comments, what are we looking forward to this week?
You've done a video, or you're doing a video on torque wrenching properly. Proper torque wrenching. That'd be good.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And you're doing a video on bike fit with Ergon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
all the
real
way
good.
over in Germany, was
Yeah,
that?
all the way over in Germany. It was very fun, with lots of tips and tricks on how to get a better bike fit.
Cool. Well, stay tuned and join the debate down in the comments below if you don't want to leave us just yet, because we're talking about whether 2015 was the golden year for bikes.